The alley smelled of rust, old coolant, and yesterday's rain, exactly the kind of place people tried not to look at for too long. But for Lyra and her daughter Mira, it had become the last place they had left. Lyra tightened her grip on the battered suitcase, fingers trembling. Her skin, lavender and bruised in the cold light, made her stand out, even here in the lower stacks of New Juneau City, where species mixed like spilled paint. Myra, small and pink-haired, clutched her stuffed felinette to her chest, its button eyes staring blankly ahead. They had been evicted barely an hour earlier, tossed from their lodging capsule by a landlord who didn't even bother hiding his disgust. "You people never pay on time," he had snarled, even though Lyra had paid on time for months, until the factory switched to half shifts without warning. "Take your brat and go beg somewhere else." So they left. No friends, no family, no credits. Mira had been silent since, and that frightened Lyra most of all. The rumble of heavy boots echoed off the metal walls before Lyra even saw him. A massive human figure jogged down the alley, body armored, arms marked with swirling tattoos, weapons strapped across his vest. A soldier, or mercenary, or worse. Lyra instinctively pulled Myra behind her, heart hammering. The man slowed, took in the sight of them, the worn suitcases, the trembling child, the alien mother, and his face softened. "Hey," he said gently, hands raised to show he meant no harm. "You two okay?" Lyra swallowed hard. We're fine, thank you." She wasn't. The man crouched to Mira's level, his voice dropping into something warm and unexpected. "Hey there, kiddo. You hungry?" Myra blinked at him, silent. The man reached into a pouch and pulled out a small ration bar, breaking off the softer part and holding it out. "It's not much, but it's real food, I promise." Lyra moved to protest. Don't take food from strangers. Don't trust armed men in alleys. But Myra reached for it, slowly, as if pulled by instinct more than choice. She took a bite, then another. Her eyes glimmered. The man smiled. "There we go. My name's Kane." Lyra hesitated. "Lyra, and this is Myra." Kane nodded once, the gesture surprisingly respectful. "You two look like you've had a rough day." Lyra laughed softly, bitterly, more like a rough life. Myra tugged Kane's sleeve, then, leaning in close, she whispered something so quietly Lyra barely heard it. "We were thrown out because we didn't pay rent," the little girl said, eyes glossy. "Mama tried. She really tried." Kane's jaw tightened. A flicker of anger passed behind his eyes, anger not at them, but for them. Lyra felt a strange ache rise in her chest. Most humans looked away from their kind. This one didn't. He stood, dusting his knees. "Where were you headed?" Lyra gestured faintly down the alley. "No place, just walking until I figure something out." Kane exhaled, long and heavy. "You shouldn't be out here, not with the kid. Too many scavvers around at night. And Sector 12 patrol doesn't exactly stop to ask questions." Lyra bristled. "We don't need pity." "Good," Kane said sharply, "because I'm not offering pity, I'm offering help." Lyra blinked. Kane motioned toward her suitcase. Come with me to the outpost. It's warm, safe, and I can get you a meal. Maybe point you toward some programs for families. Lyra had been lied to by every authority she had ever met. Her people were not welcomed on this planet. They were tolerated at best. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. But Mira tugged her hand. Mama, please. And suddenly Lyra felt her resistance fracture. Just for tonight, she said softly. Kane smiled. Just for tonight. The outpost wasn't far, just a few streets away, but entering it felt like stepping into another world. Warm lights, clean metal floors, the faint hum of generators and chatter. A place built for order, unlike the chaos outside. Several soldiers stared as Kane led the two aliens inside. Not with open hostility, but confusion. Kane ignored them. He guided Lyra and Myra to the small mess hall and grabbed an extra tray, loading it with nutrient soup, bread, and a fruit pack. Lyra watched him carefully, waiting for the moment he would grow tired of helping them. But he didn't. Myra devoured her soup like she hadn't eaten in days, which, Lyra realized with a pang, was almost true. Kane chuckled, offering her the fruit pack. She's a tough little one, he said quietly. Lyra nodded. She shouldn't have to be. Kane leaned against the table. What happened? Really? Lyra hesitated. Then the truth spilled out: the job cut at the recycler plant, the delayed payments, the medical bill she couldn't cover after Mira's fever last month, the landlord who doubled their rent because alien tenants were high risk, the debt collectors, the constant fear. When she finished, her hands were shaking again. Kane's eyes darkened. That's extortion. It's life, Lyra whispered. Not the life you deserve, Kane replied firmly, and definitely not the life she deserves. Myra was curled against Lyra now, drowsy from the warm food. Kane watched her with an expression Lyra couldn't decipher. Look, he said, shifting awkwardly. I wasn't always a soldier. I grew up in the outer slums. Saw people chewed up by the system because no one cared enough to do something. But sometimes you get a chance to be the person you needed when you were younger. Lyra looked up sharply. And today, Kane continued, I saw a chance. But why us? Lyra asked. We're not your people. Kane snorted. You breathe, bleed, love your kid. Congratulations, you're my people. The words hit Lyra like a physical blow. No human had ever said something like that to her. Later, Kane arranged a small sleeping cot in the quiet corner of the barracks. Mira curled up instantly, clutching her toy. Lyra sat beside her, brushing her daughter's hair. Kane lingered nearby. You two can stay until morning, he said softly. I'll talk to the captain, see if we can arrange something longer term, maybe a temporary residence pass. Lyra's throat tightened. Kane, thank you, truly, he shrugged. Just doing what decent people should. Lyra studied him carefully. The tattoos on his arms told stories of battles, losses, promises kept to no one but himself. His eyes held the weary patience of someone who had seen too much and kept going anyway. "You've lost someone," she said quietly. Kane stiffened, but didn't deny it. "Yeah." Lyra didn't press. Pain recognized pain. No explanation needed. After a moment, Kane knelt again, brushing a stray curl from Mira's forehead with the gentlest touch Lyra had ever seen from a human soldier. Mira stirred, eyes half opening. "Are you staying with us?" She mumbled. Kane froze. "If your mum wants me to stick around for a bit, sure." Lyra swallowed. Her voice felt fragile. "We wouldn't mind." Myra smiled, drifting back to sleep. Kane stood slowly, rubbing his face with both hands. "Stars, she reminds me of my little sister." "You have a sister?" "Had," Kane said softly. "Lost her a long time ago. That's why I couldn't walk past you two." Lyra's chest ached. "I'm sorry." He nodded, not looking at her. "Yeah." Hours passed. The base dimmed to its night cycle. Lyra couldn't sleep, not from fear now, but disbelief. In a single afternoon, she had gone from losing everything to finding the first flicker of hope she'd felt in years. She slipped outside into the corridor, needing air. Kane was there, leaning against a railing, staring at the glowing cityscape through the grated window. He turned when he heard her. "Couldn't sleep?" "No," Lyra admitted. Kane studied her cautiously. "You did good today. You kept her safe." Lyra laughed weakly. "I barely kept us alive." "That's enough," Kane said. "Sometimes surviving is the bravest thing you can do." Lyra stepped beside him, looking out at the neon-hazed city. "I don't know how to repay you," Kane shrugged. "Don't need repayment." But he interrupted gently. "If you really want to know how to repay me, make sure Mira grows up believing there are still good people in the world." That made Lyra's eyes sting. "I think she already does," she whispered. Kane's expression softened. "Good." They stood in silence, then, not uncomfortable, just shared. Wounded souls recognizing each other. Finally, Lyra spoke. "What happens tomorrow?" "We figure things out," Kane said simply. "I'll talk to the captain. Get you both processed. A safer living unit, proper IDs. Maybe even help you find a new job." Lyra stared at him, stunned. "Why do all this for us?" Kane looked away, voice quiet. "Because you and your kid were thrown out on the streets for not paying rent, and no one should face that alone." Lyra exhaled shakily. For the first time in years, she believed she wasn't alone. When she returned to Myra's cot, the child stirred awake and whispered, "Mama, is he one of the good humans?" Lyra smiled, brushing her daughter's cheek. "Yes," she said softly. "He's one of the best." From the corridor, Kane pretended not to hear, but his eyes shone just a little brighter in the dim light. And in that forgotten corner of New Juneau City, hope small but stubborn took root. Tomorrow would be different. Because humanity, at its best, didn't care what color your skin was or which world you came from. At its best, humanity helped, and that made all the difference.